We'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining from. This is Andy White, and I will be your host this morning. And I want to thank Fanvil for hosting this webinar. Epygi has been working with Fanvil for a number of years, and we just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce Epygi to the Fanvil partners and to show just how closely Epygi has integrated with the Fanvil phones. So we're going to start out with a slide presentation, and I've got agenda. We've allowed about an hour for the webinar. We're going to start out with a brief introduction to Epygi. We'll look at the benefits of working with Epygi, and then take a look at our PBXs and our gateways. See what options are available, which products are available. And then we're going to look at how you configure the what options are available when you go to install the phones at the customer's sites. And we'll see how we do that with the PBX. And then we'll also look at the Epygi IP PBX menu, and we'll actually configure a couple of the couple phones. And at the end, we'll leave some time for some question and answer. All right, as far as Epygi, we are a privately held company in the US. We were founded in 2000. And one thing that not too many people know about us, we were actually one of the very first voice over IP PBXs on the market. So we're not new at this, okay? We've been around since 2000. We've got about 30 employees. A majority of them are support and R&D engineers. We do product design in the US. We have our development center in Yerevan, Armenia. Our headquarters is in Orlando, Florida. And our products are 100% developed and owned by Epygi. Both the hardware, we've done all of our own hardware design, circuit board layout. All that has been 100% developed by Epygi, okay, as well as the software. Our products, historically, we focus on the IP PBX on the on-premise systems, and we've also now have a hosted solution. Okay, we also have gateway units, and we work real closely with third-party devices to add additional functionality and features. And as you'll see, Epygi PBXs were compatible and easily configured with all major SIP telephones and devices, and phones such as Fanvil, probably a little bit more closely integrated. And we're going to show that. You'll be able to, we'll demonstrate that here in a little bit. All right, configuration, maintenance, it's all simplified with phone auto configuration and updated, straightforward user interface within the system. All the software upgrades are free from the Epygi support portal. And we're competitively priced and very stable appliances, units. I can attest to that. The units are all solid state, no moving parts. So they are very reliable. All right, and something near and dear to my heart is the technical support and training. We have an excellent team to assist you with any problems or questions that you might have. All right, we're going to take a look at some of the units, the IP PBX on-premise systems. They range from anywhere from 16 to up to 3,000 extensions. So we support traditional analog telephone lines and PSTN trunks, and of course SIP trunks as well. A complete feature set right out of the box, and also some options for some advanced licensing features such as call center licenses and call recording, a few things like that. All right, we also can do surveillance, store control, paging devices. Okay, and then All the systems include network and security functions, the SIP IDS, they got a basic router, firewall, VPN capabilities, and you can add, if needed, you can add different languages for different countries. As the units, as I mentioned, they're solid state, low power consumption, very compact and very modular, and we also have a redundancy option. All right, as far as the hosted solution, it's a cloud-based offering. It's based for that we offer here in the U.S. It's an excellent source of recurring revenue to our resellers, and it complements our premise-based solutions as well as the gateways. All right. The ECQX, as it's named, which stands for Epygi Cloud, and QX, it's our cloud-based platform, and it has the similar feature set as the premise-based solutions. And some of the advantages: you get great value, solid platform, and as we already mentioned, you get real good, excellent margins. Got a excellent support team to back it up. And you can also have the advanced functions on that, for example, like a call center and call recording and audio conference server, those sorts of things. And we could do system monitoring via the EC Mon platform. As far as your termination to the PSTN, you can bring your own SIP trunks with an ITSP, or you can use our gateways on site. The choice is yours. You got several options, and it's easy to provision the endpoints, all the phones. Okay, and each partner would have their own PBX instance in the cloud with their customers. Okay, the Epygi Cloud Monitoring Service, which is EC Mon, that allows the resellers to monitor and receive alarms for the QX, ECQX, the cloud hosted, as well as the premise based units, so you can get alarms on those. And on the premise based units, there's also an advantage with the EC Mon. It gives you access to those units, even though they might be behind in a customer's private network. The EC Mon will provide a connection and will give you access to those units, so you can log into them and make changes as needed. So that's a big plus. All right, here's the models for the premise-based units. You notice they all have a LAN and a WAN port. Starting with the QX20, it starts with it's the low-end model. It starts with 12 users, 12 phones, and it can grow to a total of 32 phones. The QX50 starts with 16 phones and can grow to a total of 50 phones in all. You notice the unit also has a couple of analog ports, the FXS ports, for for like fax machines, if you need dial tone, local dial tone, analog dial tone. That's the FXS ports, and then you have a couple FXO ports for connecting a private line from the central office to get dial tone through a POTS line. The units also have you'll see the in and out ports for example, like an external overhead paging. You can have the audio out, audio in, that can be used for say like a music on hold source. Okay, then the units also have, you see the LAN and a WAN port, so it can actually stand alone on its own, even on the public IP. Okay, then continuing that we got the QX200, which has starts with 24 phones, and you can grow that to 200 phones. It has an extra couple FXO ports on there. And then you've got the QX500, starts out at 100 phones and grows to 500 phones in all. So some good sized units there, and if those aren't going to cut it for you, if you need a larger yet, you can have the get a QX3000, which is actually a server. It starts out with 200 phones and can grow to a total of 3,000 phones in all. All right, our gateways, they'll convert your analog and digital phone calls from the traditional network over to voice over IP for making SIP calls over the internet. All right, the gateways, they also feature a built-in router and firewall, VPN. All that functionality exists, just like the PBXs. It auto configures with the QX PBX. If needed, it has an auto tenant that can be configured in a master-slave type configuration. Power redundancy, low power consumption. With the units being solid state, they all have low power consumption. And there's a failover phone registration. So for example, if you lose your broadband connection, you can actually register if you have, for example, if you have phones connected to an ECQX hosted solution and you lose your broadband connection, you can actually alternatively, as a second outgoing choice, you can have an outgoing calls or incoming calls through the gateways. All right, the gateway models. You've got the QX E1T1 gateway. It has a E1T1 port to allow like a PRI type signaling connection out to maybe a legacy PBX or even to the provider, the central office, for delivering the PSTN trunks. All right, then the FXO 4-port gateway, which has 4 additional FXO ports on it. If you need some of those extra FXO ports, you can use the gateway for bringing in the POTS lines from the central office. Okay, then the FXS 24-port gateway will deliver 24 analog phones on that gateway. So that's there's still a need out there for analog phones, believe it or not. There's still a lot of customers out there that ask for that and need to have that requirement. So that will deliver 24 analog phones. All right, next we want to look at some installation scenarios. So you've got the units, you've got the phones, and you got the LAN port on the system, you got a WAN port. How does that all play out, and how does that work when you're connecting the unit into a customer's network, either existing customer or you have the option of configuring it to you have their own new installation going on. So what are your options available to you? So in this case, the customer has a firewall. They've already got a firewall in place with the DHCP server. They've got their PCs in place. You can simply bring the QX into that network and connect the WAN port, WAN, connect the WAN port of that unit, connect it to that switch along with the phones. Those phones will provision through that WAN port. In this case, the QX LAN port won't be used at all. You can have POTS lines going out on those FXO ports, or you can have SIP trunking going out through the internet through the to the ITSP. Next option, okay, is going to be the similar connection. The WAN port is connected to the customer's firewall. The PCs, maybe they're on a similar switch, maybe they're also connected to that same firewall, or well, in this case, the drawing showing where you've got the on the LAN port of the QX50, you've got a switch, and on a switch you've got the phones, and you can put some PCs on there. Typically, the PCs are probably going to be on their own data network, but you can move the phones just on the LAN, and they'll configure The QX50 will act as the DHCP server. In this case, it'll provide the IPs to the phones. It's probably the easiest way to configure the phones is when the QX50 is the DHCP server. But the system would still have an access out to the internet through that firewall and the WAN port for SIP trunking. This scenario is very similar to the first. You got the firewall, customer's firewall. You got a switch. On that switch, you've got your PCs. You got the WAN port, and the phones are going to configure to the system through a VLAN. Okay, across that same WAN port, you're going to have a VLAN, and it'll take on a different IP. And the QX50 can even act as the DHCP server across that VLAN, so it can hand out IPs. It's a great way to keep the traffic separate, voice and data traffic separate, so that there's no issues there. Okay, and the system can still get outside access to the for the SIP trunks. The you also have if you have some remote locations, remote offices, you can have those located externally at that office, and they will configure through that firewall, through the WAN port to the system, so they can be configured as remote extensions. All right, what types of methods are we using to configure the phones? In this scenario, they're going to be local to the QX. And the first and easiest is the plug and play method. Okay, it's basically it's using a multicast or assisted plug and play using the DHCP option 66 on the router. But basically, you just connect the phone to the network, and it's automatically going to receive a configuration. The system's going to recognize the phone. The phone's going to request the configuration file. We're going to push the configuration file out to the phone, and it's going to come up, and it's going to have an extension assigned to it. It'll be assigned. It'll be registered. Everything just kind of works out of the box, so to speak. All right, so true plug and play. All right, the second method is what we refer to as auto configuration. So this is a method where before you connect that phone to the network, you go into the system, and you're going to enter the phone model and the MAC address into the QX. And then you'll factory default that phone, connect it to the network. The system's going to recognize that MAC address and then configure it to the extension and IP line that it's been assigned to. And then lastly, the third method is for the phones that we're not providing a configuration file for, which is like there's a lot of adjunct devices out there, door stations, soft phones, video cameras, all these devices, they're going to work. You'll be able to make calls to and from the system that they have SIP clients on them. They can be configured to the system as an extension, but we're not going to configure those devices. Okay, so you just have to what we call manually configure those devices. You just go in, choose the extension and IP line that the device is going to be assigned to. You enter the registration username, password, and on the phone you do the same thing. So you manually enter all that information along with the IP address of the system. All right, as far as options using when you remotely configure the phones, either from the ECQX, which all phones will be remotely configured, or the premise-based offices that have some remote phones. So a couple of auto configuration methods. One, and those phones are going to be located remotely, and they're going to be on a private network, so that they're going to be what we call NATed. Okay, it means they're all going to be sharing a same public IP address. Okay, so to make sure we're able to make a call and hear the audio. That natting has to be resolved, and in this case, a couple different methods. First one is resolved using symmetric RTP. So on the QX, on the PBX, you enter the phone model, the MAC address, and then you go into the phone, you log into the phone, and you basically point it to the provisioning server, which will be the ECQX IP address or host name. Second would be auto configuration using OpenVPN. So that natting issues are resolved by a VPN connection between the phone and the ECQX. You also get an added benefit there of a secure connection. And it also allows you can connect to that phone if your PC also has that same OpenVPN type connection. All right, so on the configure that on the QX, you go to the OpenVPN, configure the OpenVPN server. You generate an OpenVPN configuration file, which is going to be installed on the phone. And then again, you enter the phone model MAC address and then select the Use OpenVPN Settings option. Now you go to the phone, upload that OpenVPN configuration file to the phone, and then you set the provisioning server to the ECQX IP address or host name. And at that point, it should reach out to the system, and it'll be configured through that VPN type connection. A couple other options would be the manual configuration, where the natting issues are resolved using symmetric RTP. And on the QX, you simply enter the phone model as other and set the registration username, password, enable the symmetric RTP option. Then you log into the phone and then you put in all the parameters, the username, the password, the IP address of the system. And at that point, the phone should reach out to the system and automatically try to register. We're not going to have a configuration file that's going to be sent out to the phone in that case. All right, the last option for doing is what we call zero-touch provisioning using a RPS, a redirect provisioning server. Okay, so this is one that a lot of people are using now, and it's working out real well. Okay, it's by default the phone is going to look to the manufacturer's own provisioning server, and the phone will be basically redirected to the location of the either the host or the IP address of the ECQX. So you're going to get an account on the provisioning server. So on that provisioning server, for example, on the Fanvil distributed provisioning service, as they call it, FTPS, you're going to get an account. You're going to enter the MAC address of the phone and then also the IP address or the host name of the PBX. So what will happen is once you bring that phone up, the phone will reach out to the provisioning server. The provisioning server recognizes the MAC address, redirects it with the URL of the PBX, at which time the phone will request a configuration file. All right, so that concludes most of the slides that I have at this point. Want to take a look, and we'll come back to this. But if you have want to contact us via email, sales@epygi.com or andy.white@epygi.com. There's our contact information, and we'll come back to this as before we finish up here. Okay, we're going to log into a QX200. Briefly introduce you to the QX GUI, the interface. All right, this is what we call the dashboard screen. Any active calls would be shown here. The call start time, the call duration, the two phone numbers involved in the call. Shows me the firmware version of the system. Throughout the system, you're going to see a lot of shortcuts, quick links, so to speak. You can go to those. For example, at the top, you can go directly to an extension and configure some settings on it. There's on any of the pages as you navigate throughout the system, there's a help page. There's a drop-down menu, has some the feature codes It'll provide you a list of all the feature codes. On the left-hand side, you'll see the main menus, which is the dashboard. It will take you to this page. Then there's the basic setup, the extensions, the interfaces, the telephony settings, firewall settings, network settings, status, and then maintenance items. All right, just real quickly, we're going to take a look at setup. Basic setup will help you configure. As you go into any of these menus, it'll give you an overview page where it has an explanation, a brief explanation of the different menus. You can click on any of those menus, or you can click on the menu at the top, the main menu header. So basic setup, it has some sub-menus under it. So the first one, System LAN, which is a system configuration wizard. As I mentioned, we do have several wizards to help you configure the system. This will define the LAN IP address of the system, 172.30.0.1. That's the LAN port IP. And then on the next page, you can enable the DHCP server and the range of IPs there. I'm not going to go through all the settings here in the interest of time. But the next one is the WAN ports settings. You can define the, by default, it's going to get an IP address automatically, or you can set a static IP. Okay, and then of course you can have the date and time, email accounts. So for things like a lot of features are available with through the email. For example, like voicemail to email, it's a most popular one. The system would need an email account provision for that. You can also receive text messages, SMS. There's a system security menu. Okay, we have done a lot of enhancements, a lot of work over the years around security aspects. As I think Epygi, I think we're even a bit ahead of the curve, and a lot of people will buy our products for that reason because of some of the security aspects and the features that we have implemented in the system. This is a security level. It's going to make sure that it's set to medium. It's going to make sure that you enter a good, strong password whenever you're configuring your devices. And there's also a security audit that can be run. It will check and make sure everything is in line with this security menu being set to medium. And it'll let you know if there's any areas in the system that that you may need to take a look at. For example, like a call routing entry has not been secured. It could be a possible security issue, so it'll let you know. Then there's any license keys if you want to add those, redundancy options, language pack, but we're not going to look at all those. We're going to jump right to the extensions. This is the extensions management page where you see a list of all your extensions. You can add, renumber these extensions if you want it. So it's up to you. You can have 2, 3, 4-digit extensions, a mix and match of both both if you needed. At the top, we've got the 00 and 11. Those are my two auto tenants that I've got configured. Then we've got the users extensions. Down below, I've got some devices and virtual extensions that can be used for different features and general voicemail boxes, and also have extensions that we use for different features. For example, like call pickup, call park, paging group, and call recording. So those are all, we use extensions for those as well. All right, going across here, you can see you can quickly navigate to the admin settings. You can just click on this little icon, this shield, or you can go to the user settings where you can configure some of the user type features, maybe the voicemail settings or call forwarding or things like that. Each extension gets assigned to, here in the middle, gets assigned to a line, in this case an IP line. So if I wanted to define the device that's going to be configured on this extension 100, I would need to go to IP line number 1. And it's there that I would define the device type the phone model, etc. So you can see how each extension has its own IP line or FXS port in the case of extension 120. When you see a red link like this, it will take you to a, for example, on the far right hand side, the codecs. I can click on this link for PCMU, and this will take me to the codecs that are available for this particular extension. So I've got G711 MULAW and G729 are enabled. So when this guy goes to make a call, more than likely he's going to be using G711. All right, so just real quickly, I'm going to click on Edit, go to Admin Settings, Extension 100. You define the user's name. This is the user's voicemail password, which the user will configure when they go to access their voicemail for the first time. And then you define which IP line that the phone has been assigned to. So this one is on IP line number 1. IP lines 2 through 15 must be in use, but this one is so you can use any of the available ones. All right, we're going to go back. So let's look at IP line number 1, and we'll see if we can configure a phone. So if I go to Interfaces and get the overview page, I'm going to click on IP lines. Okay, you can see that these IP lines, they've been assigned. For example, there's your extension 100, and it's been assigned to IP line number 1. First thing I'm going to do is I've got a Fanvil, I've got an X4 here beside me, and I'm going to go ahead and connect it. All right, we'll let that phone boot up. And if all goes well, it should come up as the first extension, okay, without me doing anything at this point. Then we're going to skip. We'll go down to, while that's coming up, we'll go down to IP line number 3, and we're going to configure a phone on it. Okay, so I click on IP line 3. I go to the IP phone. I click on the find the model. This is next phone is going to be it's going to be an X5. So there's the Fanvil, the X5. And then I need to enter the MAC address. So I do have a list of, I do have these on a separate page here. So let me go ahead and do a copy. In the interest of time, I'll just copy and paste the MAC addresses, the MAC address for this particular phone. And it's line appearance. That's basically the number of simultaneous calls that phone can make. Here's the registration username. We give it a default LOC for local EXT extension 102. Lines up with the extension. And then there's a good, strong password that's entered in there. Okay. At this point, I could try to enter a password if I wanted. For example, if I try to enter like 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to tell me it's too weak. And if I try to save it, it won't even allow me to save it because it's not a good, strong password. Okay, if I wanted to go enter a simple password like 1, 2, 3, 4, I would need to go change my security settings, set it to low. Right now it's set to medium, so it's not going to allow me to enter a weak password. And then as you begin to enter special characters and things like that, it'll tell you it's a good, strong password. You can also click on this password generator, and I can click on any one of it. You can see that, let me just slide this over here so we can see this a little bit better. So you can have the system generate a list of passwords for you, okay? So one more time, go choose the phone model. Okay, this is the Fanvil. This is going to be X5. MAC address, there's already a good strong password in there. And so we'll go ahead and save those settings. Okay, and so now we've configured the second phone, and it's on specifically been assigned to IP line number 3. All right, and so while we were doing that, you notice that the first phone, the X4, came up. We recognized it. Remember, I didn't enter any of this information. The system, all I did was connect to power it up. That's the plug and play part. So it powered up, it recognized the MAC address, and it looks like it's finished booting here, I believe. So it is. So let's see if we can make a call. So I'm going to dial *74.
This phone is connected to IP line number 1. Extension is 100. Username is 205.
All right, so it comes up as extension 100, and it is working. Okay, the second phone, I haven't connected it yet. That's the X5. So we're going to need to connect that one, give it a chance to boot up. And then lastly, let's go ahead and provision a third phone. This will be IP line. Let's do IP line number 6. And this one will be it's going to be a C600. Okay, this is Fanvil C600, and I've got the MAC address. Let me just copy that over. All right, and we'll save that, and I need to go ahead and connect that phone as well. So we'll get these phones started, we'll get them booting up, let them do their thing, and while that's happening, we can continue the discussion. All right, a couple things that you'll notice that when the first the X4 came up, you notice some links. I know it came up because of these links over here on the right hand side. You'll see there's one called MPK, reboot, and web. So I could reboot that phone from here. Click on that, it'll reboot the phone. I can click if I'm on the same LAN as the phone. I can click this web link, and it would connect me to the screen, the login screen of to the phone. All right, the MPK is basically it's your programmable keys. Okay, if I click on this MPK, it gives me the layout of the keys on that phone, and this will change based on the phone that you're looking at, the phone model. Okay, and it's configured to the number of keys that are available on that particular phone. So for example, on key, the first 3 keys are assigned. That's a message waiting key, a headset, the IP line key. Those are fixed. Those are assigned. And then from there, I can assign maybe a watched extension. Maybe this, we'll just call this Andy. That's a BLF key. So you'll recognize that the name is being BLF. So you'll be able to see the activity of this extension 101 when it's configured as a watched extension. When that extension 101 is on the phone, the key will be lit. When they receive a call, you'll see it flash or ring. And then if you want to make a call to that user, you can just press that key, also referred to as like a DSS type key. All right, then you can assign other keys, for example, like a call park extension. We'll just call it park 1. So you can very easily park a call. Other keys, maybe you've got a shared mailbox or a general voice mailbox for the office. We'll just call it the office voicemail. This is real nice because this gives you a message waiting indicator and a general voicemail box for the office that can be used. Let's say if everybody goes away for lunch, they come back, and anybody with this particular shared mailbox on their phone, they come back, they see that key's lit, they can press that key, they can listen to the messages. So it gives them a message waiting indicator that's separate from the user's own personal message waiting indicator. Okay. So now that I changed the keys on this phone, the phone doesn't know about the changes until you reboot the phone. So it tells me, do you want to reboot the phone? Yes, I do. Okay, so at that point, the X4 is now rebooting. So it'll reboot and get the new configuration file with those settings. All right, looks like the C600 has come up, and let's see if it's available. *74.
This phone is connected to IP line number 6. Extension is 105.
All right, so that's working, and then also looks like the other phone is working as well. So extension 102. Okay, so that's working. So we should be able to make a call to 102. And you can hear the phones. I know this is not very exciting when you're not able to see it, but anyway, that's the phone call completed. And I was able to call from the extension 105 C600 over to the 102. Okay, so next, so we've shown the plug and play and we showed the auto config method. All right, lastly, I want to show you a third method. Okay, this is going to be, if we go back to our extensions list, I do have an I-20. It's configured on IP line number 14. Okay, so this is one of those devices that we don't auto-configure. IP line 14. You can see, let me click on it. It's extension 304. So in the phone model list, this is a device, like I said, we do not configure. You get to the list of all the phone models, and at the very bottom, you'll see an option called Other. So any of these devices, either the MAC address gets grayed out, you're going to put a username, password in, local extension 304, and now you're going to go to that device, and I'm actually logged into it, and I go to the SIP settings. And in the SIP settings, you point it, you send it to the IP address of the PBX, 172.30.0.1, and then you give it the give it a display name, username, authentication username, and matches has to have the same as the phone number, local extension 304, and the matching password. At that point, the device registers to the system, and which I've already provisioned ahead of time. And then in the outgoing call field, you can find which extension will call by this dial direct number. So I've got the that device. If I press the door access, the I-20, the door access key, then it goes ahead and it calls to that extension 105, which is the C600. Okay, and then it would also have video on there as well. Okay, and the other way I can know that these devices are registered is I can go to status, and if I look at system status, and then you've got the IP lines registration status, you can see all the devices that are registered. It shows when they were registered, shows their IP address, shows when that registration expires. So those phones are required to re-register once every hour. And this is the extension 304, which is the I-20. Okay, running short on time, but let me just show you a little bit more. Show you what we've taken the next step, and this is under the IP phone templates. Okay, you can create a custom template, just add a new template. You can have a couple different template names, but I created one called custom template. I click on it, and you see all the various phone models. If I click on Fanvil, okay, one of the things that I can do is you'll see a drop-down menu here. It has all the different models that we support. And I could go ahead and pre-provision certain keys. So if you know that key 4, key 5 is going to be the same across all the phones, maybe it's the office general voicemail box, and you can assign that particular key to that extension there. Okay. The other one I didn't mention, this is a scheduling option, so you can have each department can have their own schedule and they can activate it and change it from a key on the phone. So this used to be referred to, legacy uh, PBXs. They called it night service or whatever. Well, this just takes night service to the next level. So you can change the time. Um, you can have a time schedule, and you can either turn it on, override it, turn it off if you want. So if you're in each DID, each department can control their own incoming calls if needed. And and you can also, you got the visual indicator to see if that schedule is on or not. All right, so you can define the keys, and then so that be common keys that are going to be used across all the phones. Then you've also have the general settings. Okay, then general settings, what we've done on this page is we've taken specific parameters, specific settings from the Fanvil configuration file, and we've optimized maybe a few settings so that they work best with the PBX, and we may have changed maybe a default. And what we do is we can put it on this page. If you want, you can change it back. And we've also added a number of other parameters, number of settings that we find people are wanting to change. So, for example, maybe they want a different behavior on the blind transfer on hook or attended transfer on hook. The DSS transfer key mode. So, when you press it, does it make a new call, or how does that behavior work? So there's certain keys or certain aspects that we find that people were wanting to log into the phones. They'd configure all these phones. It'd be easy to configure the phones, but then they would be like, okay, well, I need to go change this particular setting on this particular phone or this phone, or maybe even all the phones. So that's not good. That takes a lot of time. So what we do is we put specific settings that we find are common to a lot of users, and we put them on this page, let you change it before we send out that configuration file to the phone. We'll check these settings, and if there's any settings that you've changed, we'll send those out. Big time saver for sure. Okay, so once you've created this template, you can go to the IP line settings and use that as the new custom IP phone template. Okay, and then you can, if you go to the IP lines, you notice that those phones are using that because it's the default. It's a custom template name that we're actually using. All right, so we've shown how to do the plug and play, the auto config, where you assign the phone to a specific IP line and extension. We've shown how to manually configure it. We also have in the extensions, there's a dialing directories, like what we refer to as dialing directories, where you can create a global speed dial. So you can create the file, and then you can upload it here, and then actually it's going to be in the we have an office-wide speed dial list which you can upload, but you also have a phone book directory. So you create this list of the numbers and the contacts and their names, their numbers, and maybe they got a first choice, second choice phone number. But it'll create those. You create those on a file, like an Excel CSV type file, and then you upload it here. And we're going to push those out to the phone so that that directory will be available, and you can use that directory. All right, so that's pretty much it. There's obviously a lot of other aspects of the system which we're not going to go through today. And then maintenance, you got a lot of diagnostics. I could do a network capture, packet capture. Here's a security diagnostics. I can run a security audit. It'll tell me any security aspects that are out of, I can display the report. System logs, you can see right here all the system logs, the registration of the phones and SIP user agent. So those are all available at your fingertips. And of course, after you complete all your settings, you certainly want to save your configuration. All right, so with that said, just want to take you back to the Epygi website, the epygi.com, where you can get more information about the products, um, the premise-based or cloud-based solutions. Um, if you haven't done so already, you can register to the support portal. You can complete this register link, and there's no obligation in doing so, but it will give you access to all of our manuals, support documents, our latest software, some marketing material, and things like that. Okay, and also just an announcement, just remind everybody next week, I will be at IT Expo. Epygi will be at IT Expo, I should say, but I will be there as well. And it's going to be in Fort Lauderdale. We're going to go down and get some, hopefully some sunshine, some warmer weather, and be at IT Expo. That's going to be next week, Wednesday through Friday. We're going to have a booth there. So be sure to booth number 830. Fanvil will be there as well. So be sure to come by and see us, say hello, and let us know if you're on the webinar. And I look forward to meeting anybody that might come by. But that concludes the presentation for today. So we can open it up if there's any questions. We can certainly do that. If you don't want to ask, you can always send me an email. That's let me go back to the last page there to bring up my email account. Okay, there's you can send the information to sales@epygi.com or andy.white@epygi.com. There's my contact information. So be sure to give us a call. Let us know what you think. And we certainly look forward to working with you, and I appreciate everybody taking the time to join us today. All right, so if there's any questions, I'll be glad to take those. I think everybody might be muted at the moment, so we'll have to have the Fanvil to marketing to be able to help us out with that. But you can also send me a question via chat. And I'll stay on here for a few minutes if anybody has any questions, all right? So if not, I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you, and I hope you have a great day.